Here again, CTV's Diane Verneal.
As it gets colder, you will start to notice the price of fresh produce creeping upward at the grocery store. With our growing season winding down, it means that much of your fresh fruits and vegetables are going to be trucked in from warmer climates. But a local farmer says that it's not that hard to store certain produce for the winter, and it can save you a bundle. We visited her farm for a refresher course on the lost art of overwintering food. Workers at the Fertile Ground Farm, just outside Waterloo, are pulling out the last of the carrot crop for the year. This is a CSA, a community-supported agriculture operation run by farmer Angie Koch.
We've got 5 acres here, and I feed probably around 200 families.
Every week, Angie offers up fresh organic produce to families who buy shares. In 2013, produced a bumper crop.
We started out with a lot of really cool wet weather, which was fairly challenging in the early months, but it turned into a really great year, lots of bounty.
But with the growing season drawing to a close, Angie is encouraging her customers to start thinking ahead.
If you can stock up on large amounts of root vegetables and get them into good storage, it's a great way to be able to eat local right through the winter.
Not only will you be eating local, says Angie, but you can save money too.
It's always cheaper to buy in bulk, and partly you can have more diversity in your diet still eating locally because the local food kind of dries up as the winter goes on.
Stocking the root cellar is something previous generations did before grocery stores started carrying trucked-in produce year-round.
I think people used to have cold rooms in their houses, so there were places to keep things cold. They had gardens, so some things can even be stored in the ground if they're mulched well.
Overwintering produce is a forgotten skill, says Angie, that's not that hard to learn. She has 2 basic techniques, starting with veggies that need to be cold and moist. Like cabbage, she leaves them in an open bin.
And all you need to do is peel off the outer layer, which is going to go a little bit soft, and you've got a really good cabbage in the middle.
These should keep until early next year. With rutabagas, Angie says not cleaning them keeps them fresh.
It's a really good way to moderate the humidity in the environment and keep things from drying out is to pack them dirty. And they'll keep right through till early in the new year or even through till March if they're happy.
Here's how not to store parsnips in a plastic bag.
Getting these out of plastic and into some sort of packing medium that breathes a little bit better would be ideal.
This is one of my favorite vegetables, fennel. In the wintertime, I've seen these for $3.99 a bulb. So how do you store them?
I've got them here just in a bucket. I would throw a damp sheet over the top to help keep or a cloth to help keep some moisture in, and then put a piece of plastic over it.
Loose in a bucket like this, the fennel should last a couple of months. Same goes for the kohlrabi from the cabbage family. Now here's something lots of people have in their cold storage rooms, and that is potatoes. How do you keep yours?
I either just keep them in a bushel basket like this or in a brown paper bag.
Angie groups these vegetables all together and then covers them with a damp cotton sheet.
They can still breathe, but it gets some moisture in.
And lastly, a loose plastic tarp is tossed over top. Angie shows us another packing technique she uses for carrots. It starts with wetting some wood shavings. Angie says peat moss or sand can also work. After being doused with water, the shavings get a good mix. And then comes the moisture test. You don't want it to be too wet.
Ideally, when you pick it up and squeeze it, you can just feel the drops of moisture forming between your fingers, but there's not really anything coming out.
With some of the shavings at the bottom of the crate, Angie is ready to start layering. Carrots ready to go in?
Yep, carrots are covered in dirt. It's a good way to help manage the moisture levels, so I don't wash them.
She alternately adds a layer of the carrots and wood shavings until the crate is filled. Finally, Angie covers the carrots with a loose sheet of plastic.
So that I don't have to keep re-wetting this so often, I like to just loosely put a sheet over top of plastic. It'll still let some airflow in, but it's going to help keep that moisture in too.
But when it comes to anything with a papery covering, like onions, shallots, and garlic, the technique is slightly different. These need to be stored cold and dry. So you've got a nice crate here full of garlic. How do you want to keep these?
Garlic and onions and shallots, anything that has paper on the outside, they want to be kept cold but dry.
Hot peppers can get pretty pricey in the winter. Angie spreads them out on a crate.
They'll dry like this quite well. You can hang them on a string if you don't have the space to lay them out. But once they're fully dried, then you just pack them in a jar and they keep really great.
Angie, your thermometer in here says that it's 10 degrees. Is that cold enough?
Not yet. I'm working on it. So one of the things that you need to do with a cold room is get the temperature down. And I've been doing that by opening the window during the nighttime to let the cold air in, and then closing it up during the day to try to keep the temperature down.
The only exception to Angie's storing formula is squash, which needs to be kept a little warmer at around 10 degrees.
They're packed so that they're not really touching each other, they're not layered, and then they just want to be in a dry place.
And the last thing you can do to store your bounty for the winter is canning. Angie says there's lots of how-to information online, and you can even do small batches. Now, if you don't have a fruit cellar in your home, Angie says that there are a few other options. A cool attic or a garage can work, or an extra refrigerator in the basement will store your items. Still ahead, Canada declares war, but how ready is it to fight? Journalist and retired captain Larry Rose makes a case on why Canada